What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 14. And today we have a very, very special guest. We actually have Craig Robinson. You might know him as It's Epi on the Twitter universe as well as Reddit. He has been a staple of the Rainbow Six Siege community for a very long time, working in community development, community managing. He's had a couple different roles within the community and working with Rainbow Six Siege. So first of all, what's up, Craig? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, certainly happy to have you. And, it's a little bit bittersweet, I think, is the best word for it, because, we're bringing you on. Like I said before, you've been a staple of this community, but you're actually, changing roles soon. And that's, it's going to mean a lot of different things. But, we wanted to kind of bring you on to kind of wish you farewell here.
Farewell tour.
Yeah, because, I think like, for me, whenever I look at this and whenever I look at you, like there are the people who change push the buttons, the game designers and stuff like that, obviously get a lot of like credit for Siege and for good reason. Absolutely. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I feel like in today's gaming world, community development is a huge part of it. And you deserve a lot of credit for that, and for the community that we have in Siege and for the success of Siege, in my opinion. So I think I speak for all of us. We wanted to bring you on and talk about that today.
Well, no, again, I appreciate it. And I think that I agree, right? Community has such a huge part to play in any game these days. But I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I had a huge impact on the success of Siege. But I feel like I filled my role and I filled my niche and performed it well. And yeah, it's been a kind of a wild ride these last 5 years for sure.
Sad times. I reminisce like I think over the years, more than most, I have been a thorn in your side, because I'm thinking about the 2 April Fools videos, and I think, like, in particular, one that you was actually quite public about. Do you remember that? And
was that the Battle Royale one?
No, well, the one before that as well, I did the operator who was in a full shield with 2 AKs, and he had the Jaeger ADS on his head. Do you remember? Like, that could take out any... Yes. And you had people contacting you, asking you if this was legit. It's like, come on, guys, use your brain. This is insane.
Yeah. No, that's... Yeah, we've had some pretty interesting April Fool's jokes from our community over the years. I think that was a really good one. I think the funniest one, the biggest oops that I had with April Fools was probably when I can't remember who it was, but somebody made like a fake post about Battle Royale and Siege, and someone got really mad at me and about that, and they were tweeting at me and talking about how devs were shit and we're all stupid and we don't know what we're doing with the game. And it was just like, guy, this is Battle Royale and Siege. It's a 5v5 destruction bait. Like, it's not going to work. It's not a Battle Royale. And, might have gotten a little frustrated. Maybe have said something like, that's fucking absurd. Probably not what I should have said.
But, I have to take the blame for that. That was me as well. Battle Royale one, I put that one out. That one. You may have noticed that after that one, I didn't do one for a couple of years. Yeah,
but yeah, so I did that. And that was a tweet that PR manager was like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right.
I remember that.
how does Marine Craig end up doing what he did?
Oh man, it all goes back to a motorcycle accident, actually. And so when I came off of active duty, really wanted a motorcycle, like most, and so I did my little training course to learn how to ride. Bought a new motorcycle. Well, the motorcycle was probably a little bit too powerful for my skill level. And then I had it for a couple weeks, and then I got in an accident. and I laid it down. I tore up the left side of my leg, and so I went to the hospital, had to get it all cleaned out and everything, right? A few years later, I had just came off of active duty, and so I thought I was still covered by TRICARE, so like military health insurance. I thought there was going to be a grace period between the two, between like coming off and being covered and needing to get my own. I was wrong, and so so I had a hospital bill that I had to pay.
Wow.
So I get a call a few years later from a collections agency, and they said, "Hey, we need you to pay this bill. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have any money. I had just finished school, and I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I don't have any money. I don't know how I'm going to pay this." And so I've been playing Ghost Recon Phantoms quite a bit at the time. I kind of had developed a relationship with our friendship with some of the game masters and agent and customer support agents that worked on Ghost Recon Phantoms. And so I thought, to me as a gamer, I who had never really looked into it, I thought there's no way that game companies ever need people because it's gaming, right? I'm sure they're flooded with applications of really qualified people all the time because who the hell wouldn't want to work in games? And so I hit him up kind of like half joking, half not, like, hey, you guys looking for anyone to work on Ghost Recon? And they were. And so it turns out they needed to ramp up their game master team for the Steam release of Ghost Recon Phantoms. And so I put in my application. I got hired. I was just doing a temporary customer support gig. I had like a 3-month contract. And so I was doing that. And that was kind of how I started at Ubisoft. And then I moved to be the community manager on Ghost Recon Phantoms a couple months after I started as a customer support agent. And then I moved to be the community manager on Rainbow Six a bit after that, probably 7 or 8 months after that. I had some really awful videos that I made when I was the community manager on Ghost Recon Phantoms. Please don't ever look those up.
We will definitely look them up.
Did you read any patch notes?
Yeah. So what I did is I was like, all right, you know what I need? I need to get our Facebook community engaged with what's coming out this week and Ghost Recon Phantoms. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just started as a community manager. I was like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And so I would just be standing there in our streaming capture station with a green screen behind me, not really knowing how to like chroma key things particularly well or like have a good setup for any of this. And I'd just hit record and I'd go stand there on my spot and I'd just try and do it all in one take because I didn't know how to edit very well. And so I was making these just awful weekly videos or bi-weekly videos. I never knew what to do with my hands, and so they were always all over the place. It was a nightmare. And so, that was something I did on Phantoms. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, so after a bit of that, I moved over to community manager on Rainbow Six. This was around closed alpha in 2015. That was an interesting time leading up to launch. I was the community manager for about 3 years, 2.5 years, on Rainbow Six. Highs, lows. It was a roller coaster, right? It was through CM for Operation Health, the release of the game. We had the Dust line pre-Battle Eye. It was an interesting time to be in community management, and so that was fun. I had a really great time with that. I really enjoyed working with Justin. And he taught me a lot about community and kind of how to go about dealing and managing with communities. And so eventually, after 2.5 years as a community manager, I moved up to Montreal as a community developer. Learned a lot from Justin there again because he was the community developer at the time. And so I was doing community development for about 2 years. Yeah, community developer on Rainbow Six for about 2 years. Then I got promoted to senior community developer about a little less than a year ago. And that kind of meant that I was overseeing, this is after like quarantine and all that stuff. And so at that point, I was overseeing community for all Rainbow Six projects, all Rainbow Six games. That was fun. That was exciting. I enjoyed doing that, trying to kind of working with other teams and stuff like that. And then yeah, and now I'm no longer working on Rainbow Six. So that's been kind of
staying
ride.
with Ubisoft, right? We can say that
Yeah, staying with community as well, right? And so I'm not leaving community. I'm not leaving Ubisoft. I'm not leaving Montreal. I'm just stepping into a role where I'm going to be able to have more of an impact across more games in the Ubisoft portfolio coming out of Montreal. And so, I learned so much operating a live game like Rainbow Six Siege for 5 years that it's an exciting opportunity for me to kind of share those learnings and that experience that I've gained with other games and other comm devs, and kind of teach and coach some of these other comm devs on through situations that we've already been through on Siege, because we pretty much went through it all. And so it's really just like a coaching, mentoring role within the community team at Ubisoft Montreal.
You talked about some like those early days, some of the weird times with Dustline and stuff like that. And I think that throughout the life of Rainbow Six Siege, there's highs and lows, and there's periods of anxiety within the community and stuff like that. From your end, when the community is anxious and has like a hot topic that they're really fired up about, does that always translate to the developers in the sense like if the community's down? I guess if morale's down within the community, does that translate to the dev team? Does that mood kind of transfer there, or how does that work?
I don't know about the mood transferring. I think that a lot of effort is put into ensuring that. We have to manage the morale within the production team and development team as well, right? And so we put a lot of effort and care into ensuring that morale is up within the development team. Nobody wants to work in a frustrating work environment. And so that's pretty important. And so I wouldn't say that the mood transfers when the community is frustrated about something. But I would say that there's a different degree of urgency. There's almost like electricity in the air, right? When there's a really critical pressing issue in game. And honestly, those are my, how do I say this? I enjoy working through those times because I like that the electricity in the air. There's everyone's working together. We're all trying to work in unison towards a common goal. It's very clear what that goal is. And so I enjoy those types of situations. I would prefer we just don't have those problems, and therefore it's not necessary. But I don't think that's realistic when you're operating a live game. And so, when we have those situations, I wouldn't say that morale gets down on the team. I would say that we kind of really band together and work together as a development team to figure out what the issue is really, and then how to address that. That said, I think that when the community's frustrated about something, when we have people who are going to different conversation platforms, Twitter, Reddit, etc., saying, Ubisoft doesn't care, they don't listen to us, etc. It's just not accurate, and there's a lot of things that we can say, and there's a lot of things we can't say about what we're working on. But the one thing that we do is we are always having conversations about what our players are talking about. Every week we meet with the leads of the production team and development team and talk about what our players are talking about. And so, you better believe that Ying and the conversations around Ying are something that we've talked about. Cheating, obviously we've talked about it, right? And so, when we have these things that kind of bubble up, there's absolutely conversations within development about it, and we work pretty hard to make sure that that's translated effectively for the development team, because there's a lot of noise when there's an issue that's kind of bubbling up like that. And part of what we do is try to filter that noise into action items and next steps for how to address the problem. Of course, we need to work with the production team and the data team and all that to identify what the underlying issue really is, and then work on addressing next steps. And then communication comes after that, right? And so we're never going to be a brand. Well, at least we weren't. I'm not in charge of the brand anymore, but or in charge of communications. But we were always very careful about making sure that when we had something to say, when we said something, we had something to say. And it was never been a fan of kind of like fluffy, like, yeah, we hear you posts, because I don't know if that really does anything other than erode your credibility, right? And so whenever we say, hey, we hear you, we're always going to back that up with, here's what we're doing and here's what we've done. I think you'll see that in the known issues that we posted, I think it was last week, that our team worked on. And we knew cheating was a frustrating topic for a while, right? For a few weeks at least before publishing that month. And we talked about it very regularly. But until we have something tangible and we're like, hey, this is what we're doing about it, just going out and saying, hey, yeah, we know, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that people don't believe us. And so I don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that. And so that's why when we put out the known issues communication, everyone's like, oh, finally they acknowledge that cheating is an issue. Well,
you've been working for weeks.
Yeah, we've been working for weeks on that, right? And it's just not as simple as, oh, why don't you just tweet out, hey, we know that cheating is an issue. And it's because we can do that, but development takes time. And so if we say, hey, we know cheating is an issue, and then you don't see any movement for 3 weeks, then all that translates to is, you know it's an issue and you're not doing anything. And it takes time to make changes and to test changes and to test fixes and stuff like that. And so it's just, it's a complicated thing when we're talking about communication around these issues. And when our players are hitting these frustrating points in the life of the game, communication is very tricky. And I see the comments and we all see the comments and read the threads about, all you have to do is come in and say, hey, we know it's an issue. But the reality is, coming in and saying we know it's an issue and then not delivering anything for a couple of weeks means that I have zero credibility. So next time I come in and say, hey, we know it's an issue, no one's going to believe me. And that's an issue.
How hard is it how hard is it when you put something like that out and you maybe for a week or 2 weeks knew that this is coming and you know that you can like burst that fear bubble a little bit, but you have to wait. It's got to be tinkling.
Yeah, no, every time.
There's got to be 100 tweets where you're just like, dude, it's coming tomorrow. Like,
yeah, no, every time. But I understand where our players are coming from. I get it. It's frustrating, like putting myself in their shoes. I don't blame them at all for being frustrated. I get it. It's a very frustrating and difficult situation, especially when you can't see all the wheels turning in the background behind the scenes, right? And I think that it's across the board. Right? There's a lot of different things where this touches on balancing changes, for example, right? Players were saying, and I want more insight on why these changes are being made. And it's like, we have that, right? It's coming, right? I had a meeting today where I talked with all the different teams, and it's like, here's how we're going to address these concerns. And it just takes time for those things to be seen by our players, which is difficult. But again, I understand the frustration. I want to make sure that whenever we're communicating, it's communicating with something of substance and not just saying, hey, yeah, we hear you, because that doesn't mean very much after a while.
It's good to hear you acknowledging, some of the issues and that in the game. And although perhaps we're harping on to a little bit of what you were saying about acknowledging that there's an issue but not having a lot of substance behind, I actually still feel a little bit reassured to have you on here with your deep dulcet tones telling us that these things are being considered. If you don't mind, I'd like to just move it away from that for a second, taking account of the shirt you're wearing today and the recent news that we've had. Why couldn't we have kicked you off sooner if that's all it took to get Siege to tier 1? If that's all it took, and we knew, we could have done that last year, Epi.
Damn.
Wow.
No, but seriously though, amazing news, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think the work that our esports teams have put in since the very beginning has been incredible. I think what we have in terms of the regionalized structures is really exciting, and the revenue share program, the MCX program we have with the professional organizations is awesome. And so it's really, and just seeing the game mature over the course of the last, I guess we're coming up on a little over 4 years of being live. It's incredible. And so, I feel as if the team has worked so hard. It's really nice to see all of that hard work recognized.
Absolutely.
And the reality is, my understanding of how the tier 1 is calculated is not particularly robust, but from reading the comments about it, it seems like it's a combination of esports and game quality and community and kind of the future of the game is all kind of taken into account to a degree. And I think that without the community that we have, without the pro players and pro scene that we have, it'd be a very different game. And I think that we've kind of all felt like we're in this together from the beginning. And I think that contributes in a huge way to the passion that people have for the game, both on the development team and in our community and then in our professional scene. And so, yeah, I think across the board, it's incredible and it's really exciting for everyone's hard work, right? Like content creators included, everyone's hard work finally being realized and seeing that recognized is awesome.
I agree that all the stakeholders have played a part in it, but I don't think you can underestimate to what degree Ubisoft, I feel, have been sort of on this particular topic kind of like market leaders in a way. I'm not familiar with any other game or publisher doing something like what you're doing, perhaps because I'm not involved with those other games so much, but with the pilot program and the stuff that you do with on Twitch and stuff like that. So I think that it has been a massive joint effort by everyone involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not super familiar either, and so I don't necessarily want to comment on that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think that what we've built is very exciting, and I think we have had a really great opportunity to lay a very strong, solid foundation. And it's kind of, at this point, it's built to last. And so, that's, I think the fact that it's built to last, and we've built all these different ecosystems around the game, and now it's being recognized as tier 1. I think it's just very exciting.
Not only that it's tier 1, but like Siege started with, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a game that most people probably didn't think was ever going to make it to what it is now. And now it's tier 1.
Like it was esports ready.
Fair, though. Well, it's not even that, right? Like, nobody, I mean, Siege is one of those rare games that it comes out and it exceeds all expectations.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody these days really builds games with the expectation that you're going to have 50 million players, that you're going to last for 5-10 years, right? Like, that's such a difficult thing to build a game on because it's so rare, right? If you look around the industry and you look at the different games that have lasted for 5 years, it's a very small list. Like 5 years going strong, it's a very small list. And so I think it's safe to say that it wasn't necessarily expected to be this big, but I think you can say that about pretty much any game.
That's fair. But you do have a game that's a little different when it comes to the amount of community outside of just esport, just playing, cosplayers, artists. Like I've played a lot of other games, and it's rare to find something where there's this many people with like, I guess, different connections to the game. Quite a few years back, we went to E3 with a bunch of very, very different people. And it was amazing to see like how different, I guess, aspects that brought them into Siege. Whether it was them streaming, playing competitive, drawing Siege content, being an artist, cosplayer, whatever it was. It's a little special, the community that has been built around Siege, and I'm quite surprised that almost little over 4 years, almost 5 now. That it's still growing strong.
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes a lot of work, but but I think that one of the things that we wanted from the start was for, I don't want to necessarily say lifestyle brand because that's kind of got some like weird connotations to it, but we wanted people to be able to attach themselves to the game in ways that are meaningful to them, right? It's one thing to just be a good player. If you're just good at video games, that's great. And we want people who are good at Siege to be able to say like, hey, I'm Zoronic and I used to be good at Siege, and
I'm glad to
but we also want people to say, I think Aspira is a great example. Hey, I'm Aspira and I do cosplays and for Siege, right? And so, or artists, right? And so I think we have a lot of different ways for people to kind of engage with the game, and we put a lot of effort into cultivating all of those different avenues. I think a lot of times what we see is a lot of emphasis put on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, like these video content platforms, which is fine. I think I think a lot of the reason for that is because a view is a very tangible metric for success and value, and so I think that's great. But I think there's a lot of value in the other aspects that contribute to community, and that's something that our team has always really worked towards. Right, we've always been very supportive of all these other facets that really play a part in creating this holistic community picture. Because if the entirety of your community is just YouTubers, then it's a little one-dimensional, and that's not really necessarily what we want when we're looking at creating a long-term, healthy ecosystem of creators. And I think we see that really shine through at the Six Invitational, to be honest, right? The Six Invitational is such a cool opportunity to see everyone coming together from all the different types of different facets of the Siege community and interact and talk and meet each other and really engage with each other. And that is kind of what we're looking for and what we've always been trying to cultivate in Siege, is that togetherness of every different facet of our community.
Well, I'm get flanked, and I'm extremely mediocre at this game.
Relatable.
I want to talk a little bit about the voice, because I think that's where you and the other people who worked on the community development of this game deserves a lot of credit. And I think, I've played Siege since the beta, but whenever I really got hooked was Velvet Shell. That's when I started playing ranked and taking the game a little bit more seriously. And coming from a game like Call of Duty, I remember like a couple of things really jumped out to me. Number one, the subreddit, the Rainbow Six subreddit was way more active, way more fun, and way more, just engaging than the Call of Duty subreddits ever were. And probably that's still true today. And so I think that was one thing that jumped out to me, because as somebody who's creating content and stuff, you look here and you're like, man, there's so many people doing a lot of different things on Reddit. So that was kind of one thing. The other thing I would say is that, to me, it's been well documented. I think Rainbow Six Siege punches way above its weight on Twitter when it comes to Twitter mentions, interactions, and just activity. And I think that is something that has been cultivated by you guys. And I think that's in a large part due to the voice that you have taken with Rainbow Six Siege and interacting with the community. Can you talk about that a little bit? Was that a decision that was like, hey, we're going to have fun with the community? Hey, we're going to be accessible? Like, how did that develop? And what do you think attributes to the success that this game has had on Twitter and Reddit?
Oh, man. So this question goes back. Before we released the game, so for those who aren't familiar, brands, games, any brand has what is considered to be what's called a brand voice, and that's kind of the way you outline how you engage with people and how you present yourself as a brand. And so before we released the game, our brand voice was very strict, military. We treat all of our players as if they're members of Team Rainbow, and you talk to them like you're in the military, and et cetera, et cetera. I think there were even some like "Hey operators" in there, which I got rid of.
Thank you.
Nobody's sitting at home saying, "Yes, I'm an operator. Yes, thank you for referring to me as an operator." But I think that our brand voice pre-launch was very, very much rooted in like military. We were really leaning into like military and the Rainbow Six history and things like that. And I think that as a community team, we were trying to find ways to get a little more flexibility to engage with our players in a more relatable way, because, yes, we are a game, we are a Rainbow Six game, we're a Tom Clancy game, but I think at the same time we need to make sure that we felt strongly as a community team that when we're talking with our players, that our players recognize that like we're people behind this brand that's talking with them. Like, people are making this game. And so, we took a more we started to experiment a little bit with a more like lighthearted, personable interaction with our players, and that started to do pretty well for us. And so we really leaned into that. And then I think that the leaning into that combined with our hyper engagement and really high presence on the subreddit really helped to kind of redefine how we engage with our players. And I think that got us kind of to where we are today, where, you know, we're able to joke with our players and have fun on Twitter, on Reddit, and wherever. And I think that's a great place for us to be. I think that it's a very, you have to walk a very narrow line when you're doing that, right? Because you don't want to like just be shitting on your players. That's not very nice. But you know, when we want to also make sure we're people, right? There is a human sitting in a chair at a computer who is replying to that tweet, right? That is not this like ephemeral brand that's replying to that tweet, right? It's a person. That's a person who's answering your question on Reddit or the forums or wherever. And so I think we've done a good job of making sure that that's very clear, and it's really kind of paid off for us, I think.
I think you've done a good job of not pulling all your hair out reading some of the responses I see on the official But I think that hey operator thing, I think it risks, if you're treating all of the gamers like they're some sort of operator, it does risk being a little bit insincere from a brand point of view. I think going the route of, like you did with Bandit and Jaeger when you got rid of the ACOGs, right? Having a bit of fun with that messaging, I think that comes across really well, and everyone can enjoy it.
That wasn't fun for everyone, Pete.
No, well, you know, the actual,
should have been.
Yeah, maybe the content of the message not so much for some people, but the way it was presented, I suppose.
We should do a goodbye gift for Craig right now, okay? Because I'm thinking about like all the responses that you guys have to see on a daily basis. Let's do a goodbye gift to Craig right now. I'll start here, and I will say this: public service announcement. If you encounter a bug, a glitch, or some type of issue in game,
just tag
do
Craig.
not tag It's Epi anymore, okay?
That's
you know how the internet works, right? This is going to have the effect that I think you want, or it's going to have the exact effect that you want, and you're just fucking with me.
Yeah, it's probably the last one, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I mean it's kind of a meme, honestly. Like I get tagged in them too. Like a lot of people, I'm sure you, Alex, and Pete, you get tagged in stuff like that too. It's
Justin
just like you look through your mentions. Yeah, Justin still does. You look through your mentions, you just see somebody like showing a scoreboard, and it's like you're tagged in it. I mean, that has to be frustrating. But yeah, I mean, seriously, in all seriousness, that's no longer your domain. And I mean, where do you suggest people do? What do you suggest people do if they encounter something like that and they want to outreach and contact somebody who can actually do something about it?
Yeah, I mean, customer support, right? You can jump on a live chat with customer support or send in a ticket, and you might not get a response right away. But I know for a fact, because I see the reports, that all of the player and cheater reports that are sent to customer support are collected and sent to our anti-cheat team.
Sent to the team. We've heard that before.
Yeah, but I meant it. And so, but they're all compiled and sent, and you know, that's an effective way. It's a very efficient way. And then, you know, but the problem is tweeting just at Rainbow Six Game on Twitter, or most of the time even tweeting at Ubisoft support, isn't actually, because of the number of people who are messaging and mentioning the brand accounts, that doesn't always necessarily mean that it will be seen. And so you run the risk of it falling through the cracks. And so, you know, our team tries to handle what they can when they see those come through on social media, but they're going to miss things. And so, because there's just so many mentions coming through per day. And so, you know, if you really want to make sure it gets seen, customer support's the way to go.
And I assume that explaining your issue in as much detail as possible is probably the best way to go, and not
Well, yeah, Yeah. I mean, if you have a bug, like that's for cheating reports, right? For customer support. If you have a bug or something, go to R6 Fix. We use that so much. We're so excited about that platform, and it works so well to get issues because it automatically injects it into the production process, right? Like when a ticket on R6 Fix gets the right threshold of votes, I don't remember how many it is offhand, but it automatically creates a ticket, and so we see it and we have it there, and we have to triage every ticket that comes in, and so it might not be a high priority, but we see it, and so it's not something that we're going to ignore.
I was going to say, Flanked used that website exclusively to get himself into plat,
Stop. If I use that much, I would have the alligator frost raptor legs charm. I want that so bad. I'm gonna get it eventually. I promise you that. All right. So I've got to ask, and I know this kind of puts you on the spot, but in the last 3 months, really, we've seen two before you kind of staples of Siege move on to other projects, again staying within Ubisoft, but moving on from Siege, and Alexander Remy and Xavier Marquis, two of the foundation, from what I understand, of Rainbow Six Siege, moving on to other projects. Now you are moving into a different position. Should Siege fans be worried? I mean, we talk a lot about how this is going to be, Siege is here to stay. Siege is, we're going to get to 100 operators, all that. But it looks like there are key parts that are moving to different areas. Is there anything to worry about?
No, absolutely not. Right. And I think that the best way I mentioned it earlier, right? The best way to say it is the foundations of the game have been built and they're very strong. And so I actually had a conversation with Alex Remy. It was probably a year ago now. And I was like, Alex, what do you want to do, man? What's your plan? Right? Do you want to be a brand director? Like, is that what you want to do? Is that where you want to be, or do you want to be like a VP or whatever? And because I was really curious, like, if you want to leave, this is before I knew he was leaving. It was like, if you leave, what in your eyes, what would that mean for the project? And it really stuck with me. And it was like we built a great game, and the foundations are strong, and we have such a talented and smart team around us that it doesn't matter if I leave. It doesn't matter if Xavier leaves. The game is going to be just fine even without us. And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. And then like 8 months later, he was like, hey, so I'm leaving. I was like, oh, well, I guess we're gonna find out. And
at least it wasn't the next day.
And the reality is, he was absolutely right. And we have built the development team and the game in such a way that, like, me leaving is not going to have an impact. Alex and Xavier leaving is not going to have a noticeable impact. And so it's in such a good place, development-wise, that we have such good people who are stepping up, who have been with the project for a while, that have kind of learned from Alex and Xavier. And on the community side, we have people who I've worked with for years now who are stepping up. And so there's not going to be any noticeable change or difference in our absence, right? And I think that's a huge testament to the quality of work that Alex and Xavier and their team put in from day one, right? They made a game that was built to last. We've said that for a long time, and it really is. And it's been really neat seeing how the people who are stepping into those, filling those shoes, or stepping in. Wait, I don't know. People who are stepping up Nailed it. I'm good with words. The people who are stepping up have done such an outstanding job of really taking the game and carrying it forward. And so, we've had a lot of really interesting discussions about what the future of Siege looks like. And I think it looks great. And I'm really excited about where this core team is going to take the game. And so that's why I'm not worried about anyone who steps away from the game, because the game was built in such a way that it's going to last, and it's going to last for a very long time.
What's your top 3 moments in Siege, and your top 3 could have been better without? It's okay. You
that's
think.
Putting him on the spot. I thought I was putting him on the spot.
Yeah,
Alex just swung the haymaker.
No, Craig doesn't have any monster right now, so this is going to be hard for him.
I would say, man, that's tough. Top 3 moments, probably implementing Battle Eye, Chill Rain. I think Operation Health, where we changed how our entire production team operated. And then that's tough. I don't know what it's. I think
leaving Siege.
No, I think that there have been a lot of really exciting opportunities and things that we've done, and it's hard to kind of like pick one out to be such a monumental milestone. You know what I mean? I think that there's been so much awesome stuff that's gone into Siege up to this point, and that will continue to be implemented, that it's hard to pick anything out. So I don't know. I think top 3 that I could do without.
Is this question easier. One of them?
That's much easier.
Yeah, this question is definitely top one. No, I think even the things that I would have rather had not happen, or still really, I still am glad that they did, because it gave us an opportunity to learn, and I feel like we grew as a game because of those situations, right? I think that the Clash, I think Clash is one of them for sure. The Clash exploits, following the Clash exploits, it was Clash, Claymores, and deployable shields. That trifecta of sad that hit all at once. That was obviously not a good situation for our players, our production team, or anything. But one of the great things that came out of that was, up until that point, we had not been comfortable with disabling an operator. And for more than obviously we disabled Hibana when Red Crow released. I think it was on PS4, but that was fairly temporary. So that was a really minor thing. But the Clash exploit situation was one where it was the first time we were comfortable with disabling an operator, and we made that decision. And that decision was made with the understanding that this is something we're going to do moving forward. If there's an issue, this is one of our options. And so it gave us a great opportunity to kind of revamp our crisis management process and really say, all right, throw out how we thought about things in the past. How can we do better now? And I think we have done much better when it comes to these kinds of situations. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Clash, by design, is going to have a difficult time when it comes to exploits and making sure that we're accounting for every possible situation where there could be an exploit. That's difficult. But the processes and the learnings we had from that have been super valuable ever since. Another one I would say would be the DDoS crisis. It was a situation that, I saw a lot of conversation from our console players about the impact that DDoS was having. And I know there was there was a huge perception that, Ubisoft only started to care because streamers and YouTubers and PC players started complaining about it. We've been looking at it before that really took off, but what we saw was all those changes were driven because of the impact it was having on console, not PC, to be just flat out. The data we saw indicated that it was happening on console far more regularly than it was happening on PC. And while it may have been disruptive for our PC players, it was far more disruptive for our console players. And so, I think that was an exciting thing because it was, we had that electricity in the air. We were all working towards a common goal, and we were able to really sit down and outline all right, here's the problem. Here are the impacted players. How can we fix this? And it was a great conversation. And I think that we worked very quickly to address a lot of those issues. We've had a lot of success with what we did implement. And I think that it's helped to keep that issue. Obviously, DDoS will always be a thing. It's the nature of an online service. But I think that what we implemented and what we've done since then has gone a long way to reducing the scale of the impact that DDoSing has on our players. Let's see here. Oh, the third thing that I was really happy about was the Charm program for Twitch.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry that I know YouTubers. I'm sorry. I know. But I worked really hard on that, and I was really happy that we were able to do that for our Twitch streamers. So it was a really cool thing. I was really happy about that. I was really proud of that one. Third thing I could do without, though, probably this question. Yeah, it's probably going to be this question. No,
you can take that as a farewell gift.
No, I'd say the Montreal winters. Moving up here, I knew it was going to be cold, but I was just not ready for the winter here at all.
This is where we need to clip in the picture of Craig in his American shorts. You and Justin in your American shorts.
I mean, I threw those out. Those don't fit anymore.
I think I said before on here, I think that nothing summarizes the Rainbow Six Siege community as well as having the Six Invitational in Montreal in February. That sums up the Rainbow Six Siege community as a whole. I don't know how else better to paint the picture.
I mean, that's how dedicated the Siege community is.
Right.
They're willing to brave the Montreal winters to see each other, and that's awesome.
My wife always says to me, why don't they do it in the summer? And I'm like, well, it's just, it's the beginning of a year thing. It's to celebrate another year in Siege. It has to be at the beginning of the year. So, but yeah, we've had those conversations. I just wanted to touch a little bit on what you were saying about Clash. And I think some of it is quite understandable because you are sort of learning as you go here with Rainbow Six Siege to some degree what you guys are doing with, shooting for 100 operators and whatnot. And, it was inevitable that if you're going for 100 operators, you are going to get some that can be exploited in some way. It happens in every game. There will be something that someone finds that can be abused and it will spread like wildfire. So really what came out of that was quite positive in that there is this quick reaction now. Hey, this operator is causing a real problem. We can just turn them off. And like you said, the community welcomes it. We don't want an annoying operator in the game, making it worse for everyone. No more than the dev team wants them in there.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And then the other thing I was going to say is the first time I really had like quite like I sat down and had a proper chat with you in real life, we were talking about this console thing and what was going on with the DDoS, and it did really strike me at that point that, you know, there'd been a lot of work gone into it up until that point where it was becoming public what you were doing, and it really dawned on me how much that it mattered to you, the console community, and how this sort of myth about, oh, you know, it's only when a content creator comes out and talks about it, something gets done. And I could tell just by our conversation how much that actually hurt, that feeling that, you know, like that they would feel that way, that the dev team doesn't care about them.
Yeah, and you know, I think last time we talked, I think when we talked about this, it was a few weeks after when we were in Barcelona.
Yeah,
so the DDoS stuff was September. We were in Barcelona in October, so yeah, it was still a little fresh.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that the console community has that impression. I think largely in part because we can't do anything about mouse and keyboard on console, and I know how frustrating that is, and I empathize with how much that is frustrating to play against. But you know, we talked about it last time I was on the show. You know, it's one of those things where if we could get rid of it, we would. Right? We don't support keyboard and mouse on console, but the tools that we have available to us just limit our ability to get rid of it. And so, you know, with that in mind, I understand why our console community feels neglected at times, and it hurts. It does. It sucks. You know, for lack of a better word, it sucks that they feel that way, and it sucks that, you know, we're not able to address such a pressing issue for them. And so I get it, but yeah, we absolutely do care about our console community.
Yep.
And I think the DDoS thing, like you were saying, is a really good example of that. And that was driven by console. That was not driven by content creators or PC players at all.
Yeah.
So
we've also seen some nerfs come specifically for console. The Ella shotgun nerf. We had Matt talk about that a little bit in the last episode, but the Ella shotgun nerf was specifically for console players. Like that has never been an issue on PC. Never. But the Ella shotgun on console was a terror, and she was nerfed. That was the first of these kind of series of Ella tweaks that we've seen come in over the last several months. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think that, you know, we share the balancing data from plat and above on PC, and that gives the impression that we don't look at the console data, and you know, that's also not the case, right? We look at the data across the board. We don't only look at Plat Plus on console either, right? Or PC. Like, we look at every single player and we try and figure out what's impacting them. And I think that the work that Laney and JB do, and Matt as well, right, to address kind of what is the issue at these different skill levels is great. And it's just not as easy as publishing a graph for each skill level on each platform.
Sure.
For every balancing update. And so we look at the data and it's all considered, and we try and make changes based on the data and the feedback that we get.
I mean, even from a business perspective, of course you care about console, because it's majority of the play base. Like, of course, right?
I mean, they're all our players.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of scale, our players are our players. And what we do is we care about our players. And so, you know, I think that it's been really exciting it excites me seeing how much our development team cares about our players, because that really obviously speaks to me being in community. But it goes beyond just our development team caring about players, and so I think it's really just neat environment to be a part of, neat team to be a part of.
Well, guys, what else do you have here for Craig? Are we trying to wrap up because we have a little special something here?
Uh-oh. Right.
Well,
I got like 30 minutes left tops.
Okay.
I think the last thing I have is I just want to say thanks, man. Like you have had a very big impact on things that I ended up choose to do because I got options and possibilities, and it mattered. And yeah, thank you for that, man.
Yeah, I can only echo that.
Honestly, yeah, you guys have been, I consider you friends, and I consider a lot of people that I've met in the Siege community to be friends, and I wouldn't be where I am today without those friendships, without Siege, right? And so I just, I'm going to look back on my years on Siege as some of the best years of my life, and it's pretty cool. It's a cool feeling. And I appreciate all of you for being a part of that.
We appreciate it.
I really hope other people will pretend like you have a birthday every time you go to a restaurant.
No, it's now Karen that has the birthday. I believe it was Six Invitational when she was telling me that she was all excited sitting at the table when they brought out the birthday cake.
Oh no,
or whatever they brought out. And she was like, "Oh yeah, awesome! I wonder who's gonna get it this time because Craig's not here. Whose birthday is it?" And then they gave her the cake, and she was like, "Ah, damn it!"
See, I've never understood that. So, I guess for anyone that doesn't know, the rule is if you eat with Craig, you lie to the waiter and tell them it's Craig's birthday. I don't get why you're always so pissed when that happens because you get free cake.
Alex, I still have to pay for the cake. I mean, I don't care, but I'm still paying for the cake. It's not free cake. It's all free for you, but I'm still paying for it.
That's true. That's true. But damn, is it worth it?
Craig doesn't have any control over what birthday they're told it is as well. So when the cake comes out with some big numbers on it.
Actually, I just realized I missed out massively on saying it was his 40th birthday or something one day.
No, I appreciate you not doing that. Thank you so much.
If I ever get a chance.
I wanted to thank you as well, Craig, because obviously, if for nothing else, you've been extremely instrumental in helping us align this series of dev interviews on this podcast, and always been extremely easy to work with. I mean, like I said, I consider you a friend as well, and there's a lot of other stuff I want that I can thank you for. But as far as like how it's related to viewers watching this right now, Craig has been, if you've enjoyed us sitting down with the other devs here, Craig's played a big part in that, and and getting us that access and allowing that to happen. And really thank you for that. And thank you from the whole community. Again, I don't think that you'll ever get as much credit as probably you and everybody else on the comm team deserves for the success of Rainbow Six Siege. But while we have a moment here, I want to make sure that we we appreciate you. Now, as far as what we've done for you here,
here we go.
We have, and we're not gonna, we've assembled. I think the way that we're gonna end this podcast is we've assembled some clips from people around the community who wanted to say thank you as well, and who you've left an impression on within the community and wanted to say a goodbye thank you as well. So the way that we're gonna end this is we're just gonna let that play and sign out with that going on. So that'll end this podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thank you again, Craig, and best of luck on your next adventure, man.
Cheers to Craig.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hello, Craig. I just wanted to say thank you for all these years. You, of all people, were one of the first who to support me when I got started back in 2017, and I was way smaller back then. Like, I think I had like 500 or something, and you and Justin were two of the first people who started supporting me. and just that incredible support, not just for me, but for the entire community that you've provided is unmatched. You don't see that in any other community. And I would just like to say thank you so much for all that you've done. And I hope that whichever project you work on now comes close to as great as Siege has become. Thanks to you, partially. So thank you so much, Craig. And yeah, enjoy your promotion.
Hey, Epi, so you're leaving Siege. I can't believe it, honestly. It's weird not having the name Epi next to Siege. I don't really understand it, but I'm really excited for you. Thank you for everything you've done. I'm sure I speak for the most when I say that you've helped me tremendously. All the best.
Hey, Craig. You're a beautiful bastard, and congratulations on your new role. I can't wait until this quarantine is over so we can get back to burger, ramen, Fridays. But until then, I'll just keep staring at this.
For as long as I've been playing Siege, Craig, you have always been there for me. And any event that I've gone to, any tournament, I've always had a wonderful time, and everything has gone so smoothly because of your work. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that, and I appreciate how organized that you are, and how you've just been somebody that I knew I could count on from day one. Thank you so much for all of that. And I've become super involved in the Siege community, and especially in the pro scene. I've become more involved in it because of you, and I love that. So thank you so much for giving that to me. And I look forward to whatever you're going to do in the future. I know that you are one of the most hardworking and organized people that I've had the pleasure of working with, and you are a truly, truly wonderful friend. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing you more in the future, and good luck in your next endeavor.
Hey, what is up, Epi? It's Grief Drums. I just wanted to wish you all the very best for the future, and just to say a massive thank you for everything that you've done for Siege over the last few years. You're still not following me on Twitter, but I suppose that doesn't really matter now that you've left Siege. Nevertheless, all the very best, man.
Craig, it's Epi Robinson. What can I say about Craig that people don't already know? Craig, it's going to be huge to lose you on the community team. You've been nothing but an amazing mentor and friend over the past year that I've been on the Rainbow Six Siege team, which I do ultimately put down to you. From going from you just lurking in my streams to invite me to be a star player back in 2017 for LA, and then which ended up making me work for Rainbow Six or for Ubisoft. It's been good, we've had some fun. Hopefully you'll stick around talking to us left behind people, but that's alright. Well, what can I say? There's only one thing I can do now that you would understand, and that's obviously just to pour one out for the boys, you know? So Craig, peace out, brother. Peace out.
Hey Craig, what's going on, man? It's Vic. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for Rainbow Six. Thank you for everything you've done for the community. We have so much to be indebted to you for all your hard work and dedication. Thank you for all the opportunities we got to spend together and hang out, invitationals. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be an Ubisoft star player in 2017, E3 with the boys. Appreciate everything we got to do. You're a tremendous man and a great human, great friend, and just want to let you know how much we love you and how much we're proud of you and thankful for everything you did. All right, man. Take care. See ya.
Craig, just thanks for everything you've done for the community over all the years you've been working on Rainbow Six Siege, and for not losing your rag with my various April Fool's Day videos that I've done over the years. I know you've, all joking aside, I know you actually took a little bit of flack for some of those things, and I really appreciate that you took it in good humour. And just really good luck with what you do in the future.
Craig, I want to thank you personally as well, because one of the things that's always stuck out to me with this game is how accessible the dev team has felt as far as being able to reach out, ask questions and stuff like that. And I think that on behalf of myself and the community, we really appreciate that. And I think it's been a huge part of the success of this game. And even though we don't always get the answers that we necessarily want, it is good to be able to send out a question and be able to get some type of reply back and know that that somebody's out there listening and hears what we're talking about with the game. It makes us feel like part of the community and not just a consumer. So thank you for that. Thank you for all you've done, and best of luck on your next move.
Craig, I just want to thank you for believing in a lot of us people and giving us a chance to do something that we otherwise would never have been able to do. You've been a tremendous help, not only from everything from when I stopped playing competitive to the podcast to the community. I appreciate you as a community person and as a friend. So thanks for that a ton.